Hi, Tara. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hey, Julia.
So happy to have you here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I've got to know you a little bit through the Centurion program so far. It's been a few months that we've been mentoring, working together, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you so far there, but this is going to be a little bit of a more intimate look that we'll get to share with our listeners. So thank you for being here.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, what I would love to do to start is could you share with our listeners a little bit about what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? And then we'll back it up and talk a little bit about what got you here, what you were doing before, and what got you interested in functional health.
Yeah, so currently I've started BME in January and learned a lot on how to start a business, the not so fun parts of business that I did not really want to do. And that gave me the kick that I needed to get started. And I officially became official in March. Really, I help mostly women with hormones, gut health, things like that. But lately, I'm actually having a lot of different clients. I've been working with teenagers, and that's been really fun because you have like two clients. You typically looks like a mom plus the teenager, but I've really enjoyed that. It's mostly word of mouth. I live in a small town, so it's lots of, hey, can you help so and so with this? And I'm like, sure. Have them call me. I get a lot of my customers from the detox, actually. A lot of people in my town have detoxed with me now. And I've gotten that reputation to be the detox girl. But many come back with me because maybe they have other issues they want to work on, or they see their friends go through the detox and the results that they get. And then they're like, hey, I need to come to you for this. So it's been fun. A lot of learning, definitely a student still, but it's really rewarding so far.
That's great. Yeah, I think we're all students forever, right? That's just life, is we're always students. If we think that we know everything, right? That's when it starts to go downhill. So we're all students still. It's so interesting that you kind of say, that it's all word of mouth. I think, or a lot of it is word of mouth, right? I think as a lot of the IHPs that maybe like got into this when Dr. Cabral launched, the Institute, they're, maybe early 40s now, and those kids are getting bigger, right? Because it's funny, I'm noticing the same thing where clients are now having their kids that maybe when I started seeing them, their kids were 10, but now they're 15 and they're having, hormonal changes or gut-based things that are coming out now that they're getting a little bit older. And sometimes you start working with the moms first and they're like, wow, this is really helping me. Now I want to, run some labs on my child and see if I can support their well-being. So it's interesting to, have that be a little bit of the trend.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think too, we can put so much pressure and focus on social media and email lists and all of the things that everybody thinks you need to be successful or you need to have visibility. And I think we underestimate word of mouth. I think we underestimate how much we really can impact people as far as, what they believe us to be as an expert just by helping them, right? If you help one person and they feel good, they're going to tell other people. And sometimes that can be the most, that can be the best advertisement out of anything. Forget the social media posts, forget the email funnels, simply just having people that have gotten great results and feel amazing because they've trusted you in your work is the greatest advertisement you could need.
Yes, I really am not. No one should really follow my social media account for advice. I do feel like BME was really, really good as far as helping me with that. Also, I have not started an email list or anything like that yet, but they do teach you how to do that. And I do think that can work incredible for so many IHPs, maybe especially if you lived in a bigger city. But I'm really finding that I'm kind of finding my path here with mostly local people and word of mouth. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, wonderful. How did you find IHP? What were you doing before this, and what kind of led you on this path? Because my guess is that it was something else since everything kind of launched within the last year or so.
Yes. So I went to college to be a nurse. So I worked as a nurse for many years. I worked in oncology. I did some medical surgical type rotations. I did a little bit of travel nursing while I was single. I worked in the operating room and I did a little case management. And with each child, I have 3 kids. I have a senior, a sophomore, and a 6th grader. And with each child, I kept cutting back hours. And by the time the 3rd one came along, I just never went back. I did keep my license active, so I'm always renewing it with the intention that maybe one day down the road, I would want to jump back in and do something professionally again. But my life just took a big shift, and I can go ahead and kind of jump into that if you're ready, ready. Ready to hear all of this. So really, I would say my start of my path to becoming an IHP was actually in 2018. And it was July 4th week. We were at the beach. My husband had some stomach pain and his bowel movements were a little off. And I do have permission to share all of this. He knew I was going to be on here today. So he said, share what you want. But he was a little worried, which was a little out of his character. He's not a worrier. And I was just like, we're eating out, we're making bad choices. It's a vacation, so I'm sure that's it. So we returned home. Maybe 2 weeks later, everything kind of came back with the pain. I think he must have been Googling because he was even more worried. And he was like, I think I'm going to go get a colonoscopy. And I was like, okay, it seems aggressive to me because they're probably looking for colon cancer and you're 38. Like nobody that's 38 gets colon cancer. But he wanted to do that. So he went. He had the colonoscopy, and when the doctor came out, he said, there's a very large tumor. It's probably cancer, and we'll send it off to pathology. And that's kind of all he said. And it's kind of like, here is your welcome packet to colon cancer. So as you can imagine, we were shocked, and it rocked our world for sure. The pathology came back as colon cancer. And I mean, that they just really started they got the ball rolling. I think that doctor must have been the one that ordered a CT scan. We were looking for spreading. Somehow the results were going to fall like on a Monday. So we were anxious all weekend. So I reached out to a surgeon I used to work with, and I told him what was going on. I was like, do you think you can get an early read on this CT scan? And because we're just sitting around, panicking. And he reached out to a colleague who was able to get a read on it a little early. And he was like, it does not look like there is organ involvement. So we felt like, okay, this is our first little bit of hope. And our next step is we met with the surgeon. She wanted to do his surgery robotically because he was at a healthy weight. He was young and healthy. And we wanted that also because it sounded like it would allow for a more precise surgery. And also the recovery time was really appealing. It's very, very quick in and out of the hospital. So, but when you desire a certain surgeon, and when you are wanting a certain surgery with particular surgery, I guess, like it required the robotic, all the equipment and stuff. And then when you take into account operating room times, a lot of times there's a wait. So we did have a wait, and we literally waited from the time of that appointment to the time that he had surgery. It was 40 days. And so for us, our faith is super important. And our faith was just absolutely critical during this time. And I just remember during that time reading, I think I was just reading the Bible that morning or, one day. And I made the connection with the 40 days because in the Bible, the Israelites are wandering in a wilderness for 40 years. And that's how we felt. It just felt like you kind of feel like you're all alone. I mean, tons of people go through this all the time, but you feel so alone at the time. And it just felt like we were in a wilderness. I knew God had provided for them, and we had to trust God would provide for us, however it would look. So He does have the surgery. Everything's phenomenal. He's in and out of the hospital. The surgeon talks with us after, and she tells us, she says, I know exactly what cancer in the lymph nodes feels like. I know that. And she said, I feel so good about this. I'm going to send it off to pathology, but I think you're going to have a great outcome. Like I do not believe that it has spread. So a week later, she calls, talks with my husband, and she was just devastated. She said, I'm so sorry. I gave you that hope. I should have never done that. And she said, but it is showing that there is spreading to the lymph nodes. So that was a big blow, because we knew at that point that automatically made him a stage 3, which meant that you really have to up the game. We had, obviously, as you can imagine, read and read and read and read. He was at a point where he was not going to read anymore because it was too stressful for him. But I was reading everything. I was reading about cancer stem cells, angiogenesis, everything that I could get my hands on. But at some point, I really think my prayers shifted to more prayers of wisdom. Like, show me things that I can learn from this. Show me how to help him. My previous experience as an oncology nurse did not leave me with good memories of what cancer patients go through, the devastating effects of chemo, both during the chemo and after. So I just did not have peace about it. Obviously, it was his body and his decisions, and I would support whatever. But he really relied on me a lot too to help him make these decisions. So I just kept praying for wisdom. Somewhere along the way, I started to find stories of stage 4 cancer survivors, which are incredible. They have incredible stories, and so many have never had any conventional interventions at all. And those stories brought me a lot of hope. One of the first things I would look at is, okay, how long were they alive? Because recurrence is always a fear with cancer. Mm-hmm. And it was like 15, 20, 25 years. And I was like, okay, what did they do? I need their framework. And I need a copy whatever they're doing. I did find a few other resources. To me, it was not as available as it is now. Like, I did not know about Hope for Cancer in Mexico. Like, we didn't know about a lot of those resources. But I knew that we needed a lot of help. He did meet with the oncologist, and he did decide to still do chemo. So after kind of studying what was happening in the natural world and what was happening, I knew what was happening in the conventional world. I was like, okay, how do we merge it? So I knew I needed some help. So I found a naturopathic doctor a little over an hour from our home. And he was really instrumental in teaching me how powerful things like supplements are, because there were several things I had read that I probably would have just thrown at his body and bought and been like, here, take this. But he was like, no, we need a plan for during chemo. We need a plan for after. And, there were other things he mentioned, not quite as deep as what we do as far as the de-stress protocol with clients. But I remember he told us to laugh, and I was like, you're crazy. How do you laugh? But we did learn to laugh again. And so we had a plan from him, for during chemo. We had a plan for after chemo. Really, I did work through the de-stress protocol with him. He and I both really, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what it was called. So, we made like huge diet changes. We are not vegetarians, but we did very, very heavy, vegetables then. I was putting whatever greens in his body I could. That just made sense to me to pour back into the body. I don't think that we did. I don't think we did hardly any red meat during that time of kind of I kind of considered the 2 years as really the crucial period. So we were really, really strict then. I know we did some wild caught fish, but before cancer, we were healthy. Like that was the biggest comment we received from everyone is, how does he have cancer? He's so healthy. He had 2 years prior to this, in 2016, he had crazy neurological experience that they could not find an answer for. As an IHP now, I would have said, let's look at the gut. But conventional medicine's still kind of the gut and brain connection's not really there, for the most part, I guess. But because of that experience in 2016, he was working out. He was eating healthy. I mean, we were eating healthy, but we weren't doing necessarily all of the things. And we did do some foundational type nutrition or supplements rather during that time. We worked through rest. There were times where we were like, oh, there's stars in the sky. Have we ever even noticed the stars in the sky? We've been too busy to notice the stars in the sky. So we did that. Of course, I think I kind of touched on, we really had to work through our emotions during that time. There was a lot of fear. I battled anxiety and I had a few panic attacks, and never in my life. I mean, even now, I don't struggle with that. But it was just a very dark season where, you had to have supportive people around you. Anyone that wanted to talk about life. I did not want to hear about a grandparent that died of colon cancer. So it's just, you really had to have, stay so focused on the mental aspect, I think, during this. And then one other thing I really wanted to mention is stress too, because as IHPs, that's something that we see as a common theme among so many clients. And one thing that I had noticed with cancer survivors is that oftentimes around the time of diagnosis, they had experienced some kind of traumatic event, say like divorce or something like that leading up to their cancer. And with my husband, he had 4 years of an experience where he had no control over, and it was extremely stressful for him. And I knew that he was stressed, but I was not really thinking about supporting stress. He wasn't thinking about it. His workouts were kind of his stress relief. So I just thought that was enough. We never thought really that you needed more than what you would get from your diet. He really had to work through on stress management, and he really worked on forgiveness in that situation as well. And then we did things like I made sure he was sweating. He was actually able to exercise throughout chemo. He had a really, I mean, I hate to say good because he's always like, it was awful, but as good as a chemo experience as you could have. He was never sick. He always could work. The infusion days were a little rough, so I would do like Epsom salt baths. We did not have a sauna at the time. I wish we would have had one. But just to try to get him to sweat. So we did that on infusion days. So we really were kind of working through the de-stress, but I had just never heard of it. And then kind of within all of that, in 2019, I stumbled upon Dr. Cabral's podcast. And I think I listened every day. I definitely bumped up his ratings. And I mean, I would take notes. I would just have like notebooks where I was taking notes, and it just really aligned with what I felt like we were kind of like the questions I was having within this season, like the why and how did we get here? And, every year he would go to the doctor and his blood work was always great. And, he had no genetic, we did genetic testing once we found out about this. There was no genetic tendency towards colon cancer. So there were all of these questions that I had as to like, how do you even get here? How do cancer cells even, and I know that we don't prevent cancer, we're not preventing cancer. But I definitely think that you can set your body up to where maybe it's not so resilient, and, we want it to be resilient. So I was just really aligned with what Dr. Cabral was saying. I think somewhere along the way in 2019, I purchased the DNS. Had incredible energy. I was probably so depleted from this season. And to this day, I have never not had this DNS. Even when I travel, it's the pill if I can't do the shake. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. I think in 2022, I believe, early 2022, I had my first lab test. It was a minerals and metals. And my IHP, my Equal Life IHP coach read it, and it was Molly. And I remember thinking, Molly has the coolest job when I got off the phone. And I just kind of tucked it in the back of my brain, didn't really think anything about it. Continued to listen to the podcast, continued to take notes. And I was like, okay, this is silly. He has a program. Like, why am I not doing the IHP? Like, this is silly. So I joined IHP late 2022. I purchased level 1 and level 2 with the intention of the information to be for me and for my family. And I knew I wanted to understand the labs. The labs fascinate me, and I wanted to have that education, even if it was just for me. So 2023, I just took my time kind of going through the program. And I would say once I started level 2, I really began having just a burden that I felt like I needed to share this. Like, this was just too helpful for me, because I did do more labs along the way, and I did work on gut things and different things for me. And I was just like, people need to know about this. And but I had a million reasons why it shouldn't be me. So I was like, I have 3 kids. I should probably just wait until my 6th grader makes it through, and I'm in my mid 40s. And who starts a business in their mid 40s? Like, and there's IHPs who have been doing this since like mid 20s, 30s. Like, how do you ever catch up with them in their knowledge? And, so there were a million reasons why it seemed silly for me to do it. But I think the burden kept growing. In your mid 40s, you began to see more and more people your age start to, the rain barrels filling up for these people. So I think that becomes even more of a burden, like what you see happen, and you're like, oh, but I know what could help. If they want to work with me, I kind of know what could help. So when I saw the BME announcement for this past January, I guess late last winter maybe, I thought, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and buy the program, because if I buy the program, I will attend the meetings and we'll see what happens. And it was the push I needed. And like I said, it started in March, and I'm so thankful I did. I'm so thankful.
Yes. So are we, because the world will never have enough IHPs, especially ones that are as passionate as you are. And so just to touch upon your husband, he is well and completely in remission and thriving thanks to your TLC and all your wisdom. And
Yes. We are very grateful. He jokes with me because he's always like, I'm not your client. So I can be a little overwhelming with my family sometimes. So, but he'll do the detox. He'll do the supplements. I make him a really tasty shake every morning. And he has continued with the supplements the naturopathic doctor recommended. He's like, I will never stop taking turkey tail, or I will never stop taking, there's a few things that he's like, I don't care. I'll never. And it's, not really bad for him. So yeah, you just would never know this had happened to him unless we share it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sharing the message of one hope, right? And there's never this, like, even though we're in more of the holistic field, we always can use that as a supplement to even conventional, because maybe chemo was the right call for him, right? Maybe that considerably helped his ability to get into remission, but knowing how to support his body through it and after it is a perfect complement to that, right? And it doesn't always have to be this black or white, one or the other, either go conventional or go holistic, right? There can be a gentle balance of both, especially when I love that you kind of supported his decision, right? Because sometimes the decision that we're most comfortable with, or that brings us the most peace, is actually the one that's the best, because then the body has less stress and can relax into the belief that it's going to work, and that, their body has the ability to heal. And sometimes it's just a matter of supporting the other things that maybe go along with that, right? Maybe the chemo is depleting. And so you were working on correcting some of that depletion, and it can really be a full support in that way, and doesn't have to be so black and white.
Yeah, and Julia, what you just said, I have always been a little hesitant to talk about our experience for that reason. What you said, as far as when you're at peace with your decision, then that does promote the healing. Because I know that there are people that and they may stumble on this podcast, who maybe their only choice was chemo, either because they did not know there were other options, or whatever the reason is. And they do heal and they do move on, and it's fine. It's just I felt like we needed more, and I think that that's where you just have to figure out, like you said, where are you at peace with your decision, and how and we were just kind of like, however the healing will come, we will, we're open. And yeah.
Yes. And, just simply the fact that a naturopath told you to laugh. I just recently had someone close to me diagnosed with breast cancer. And my only piece of advice to her, it wasn't nutrition. It was not a supplement to take. I said to her, the more you can try to find peace in your mind and almost detach from the identification that that this is going to be you or have any long implications in your life, truly, I think the faster you will heal, right? Because if we can create lightness in our body, if we can, ground ourselves in faith, right? Whatever that looks like for everybody else, right? Just having faith that there's someone else, something, taking care of you, and that has the ability to support your body and help you heal, right? When you believe in that ability, is so incredibly powerful. And over identifying with it, right? Letting yourself get warped down into this rabbit hole of depression. And it is way easier said than done. But the more you can kind of create those glimmers of just joy, hope, the more your body will respond to that from an immune standpoint. I mean, we know that connection, laughter, joy is directly related to our immune vitality, right? Wouldn't it be the same with something like as big as cancer?
Yeah. And, I did not touch on that, but I do remember, we live in a small town, as I mentioned. A lot of people knew about the situation, and which we are so thankful for their prayers and how many people really loved on us during that time. But when you go to the football game, which was normally not a big thing, there are looks that you felt like it was pity. And that was hard for us. And I just remember at one point, because I can be an introvert, a strong introvert at times. And I just kind of wanted to stay in my house and not come out. But I remember my husband saying, we have to just rip the Band-Aid. Like, we just have to. And we were like, we are not going to be known as, oh, here's Michael, the cancer patient. Like, we still needed to be, here comes Michael and Tara. This is what we know them for. This is what we love them for. And we just could not identify with it. And I mean, and even today, we don't they do like cancer survivor things at the hospital. I mean, we don't, because we're like that. It was crucial for us that it can be a part of our story, but that was what it was going to be. It was not going to be who we were. And, we just had to fight for that. We had to fight for it mentally and for that. So.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I actually couldn't agree with that mindset more, to be honest. It was part of what got you here, and it was a stepping stone, but it certainly doesn't define you or your health or, where you're going in this life in the least. And it's interesting, right, that a small town that kind of could have felt suffocating because everybody knew your story is now maybe what's catapulting your business. That same small town mentality, is helping to attract clients to your business, right? We can see that, contrast. It's so when you kind of look back, right? And maybe had you approached it differently and stayed in and felt, isolated yourself and felt ashamed and all of that, right? It may have been different for you now.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
It's so hard to ever see the why when we're in it. But oftentimes as, you walk through the forest, it kind of appears and you can kind of see a little bit of, gosh, had it not happened this way, that may have not come about.
Yeah, For sure. Yeah. And I'm healthier because of it. I mean, my husband is definitely healthier because of it. But I'm healthier. My kids are healthier. I mean, my family's healthier because when they ask me for advice, I can offer them more like the why and how do we kind of fix the why versus, just go see your doctor. Just go see your doctor and just go get a pill. It just changed everything. And really for the better. I would have in the season when you're in the darkness of it, it's hard to see that. But on the outside, you see the bigger picture. So for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. If people are listening and they do want to find you on social media or connect further, where are all the places that you show up, whether it's a website or social media, any places?
Yeah, so I do have a website and I'm also on Instagram. And my website is tarapeelewellness.com and Instagram is Tara Peele Wellness. So yeah, so
Great.
I'm there.
Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did with us and for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success podcast. This was such an inspiring conversation, especially for me, and I'm sure our listeners enjoyed it just as much.
Okay. Thank you, Julia, for having me.
Thanks, Tara. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.